In the previous video, we talked about how to import the path deviation files for the whales and also the whale log data. We looked at the different ways of importing those two kinds of data and some other related things, related topics. Right. So now we have like 15 whales, right? And then we have imported. We have their path data, so you can sort of see the whales are not exactly vertical anymore. It's got an angle, right? It's not vertical whales anymore because we have the path data in it. And then we also have in our input pane, we also have this particular section. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kinds of logs that we have already imported, right? From the last files that we imported last time, right? And the last time we looked at how we can actually display those logs on the three-dimensional window, right? We looked at the, for example, permeability. If we want to sort of see the permeability along the whales, we can sort of see them, right? If we want to see the porosity, that can, right? Different ways of displaying the whale logs. When we imported the log data, the dialog box allowed us to specify the kind of a property template that we want to use for sort of displaying the logs, right? We had two logs that we didn't find an exact correspondence for the logs, right? Net gross is one of them, right? We didn't find a property template for exactly the net gross. But after you have imported the logs, you can change the template from inside of this item. So if you right click on the net gross, or you can just double click on it, right? Either way is fine. If you right click and then select the settings, right, it's going to give you this settings dialog box. And then another way of bringing up the settings dialog box is just by double clicking on it. So this is clicking on the name of the log, right, underneath the global whale logs. So the settings or the changes that you're going to apply here is going to be reflected on all the whales, right? For all the whales that have a net gross log, right? So B1 doesn't have any logs, so it's not going to have any effect. But for every other whales that have this net gross log, the changes you're going to apply here is going to take effect on all those whales. So if you double click on it, and then you're gonna get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tabs, right? Style. So the style dialog box allows you to actually change the display of the log. So suppose you change geolog as 3D pipe, geolog in 2D. The default is geolog in 2D, right? Suppose you change it to like a geolog as 3D pipe. Apply, right? Let's just click on OK, and then let's just display logs, right? That's gonna look like that, right? And maybe that's what you wanted, but maybe it's not. It depends upon your particular application, right? But what I wanted to show you is under the info tab. Under the info tab, right? Under the info tab, you have a template, right? When we imported the last files, the property template that we selected was not exactly for net gross ratio. It's not exactly for that, right? So at this place, we can actually change that. So now it's like above contact. It's not really the right template, right? We can change that by clicking on this here, right? And then let's just press N on the keyboard, right? Then it brings us to the first occurrence of a property with a name that starts with N. So it's net pay. That's sort of and then the one right beneath net pay is net gross ratio. Right? We can just select that. And just select this net gross ratio, right? So now we have a correct template for the net gross ratio, right? Color tables. Now let's not look at the color tables yet. Let's just click on apply, and then uh, all the templates for all the wheels are gonna have the. So if you look at 810 net gross, right? Right click on it, settings, info. Right. So now it's gonna use the net gross template, right? Um, by default. Oh, it looks like I changed the style setting. Change the style settings. Let me go back. Go back to change it back to a 2D plot. Okay. Right. Another one is the full view phases, right? So depends upon if we want to change it or not. The template that we are using for now is phases. So it's got like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different phases, right? But if we want to sort of be really accurate, for example, we want to choose fluvial phases, right? You have a template that's called fluvial phases, right? And these fluvial phases are going to have a color table that's like 4 different kinds, right? But let's leave it for let's just leave it as phases for now, right? Because later on we're going to look at how to display those phases in log file in the cross in the wheel cross sections, right? But if you want to change the color table, you can also do that. Click on more, for example, right? And then you have a if you look at all the different color table, you have a one that's for fluvial, right? You have a fluvial phases, a fluvial color table. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors, 5 different colors. But now let's not change that yet, right? So if we want to look at, right, okay, right. So now we have finished importing pretty much all the data for all the wheels. Those are raw data, right? Those are raw data that's collected directly in the field. And then based upon that raw data, there are more data that can be derived. Those derived data, later on we can also import those derived data. Right? The first derived data we're going to try to import is the wheel top data, So, um, but for now, let's try to do some management on the wheels, right? So, if you right click on it, if you right click on the wheels folder, you're gonna see something that's called a wheel manager, right? And then if you click on it, it's gonna give you a table. It's gonna give you a table for all the wheels that you have imported. If you click on the home tab, there's another place that you can find the wheel manager. Maybe it's in stratigraphy, right? Wheel data manager, right? Wheel manager, log attributes. Uh, let's look at the wheel manager, right? And inside this wheel manager, you're gonna see a sort of overview, the overview of all the wheels that you have imported, right? The data of all the wheels you have imported. And this table also allows you to, for example, add items into the table, right? It also allows you to delete the wheels from this particular table, right? You can sort of do some really simple stuff. And then the wheel symbol is going to tell you what those wheels are. Minor oil, minor gas, right? And then their locations, the different column. This is in UTM meters, right? And then it also displays latitude and longitude, which are converted from the UTM by Petrel automatically, right? And some of the data were derived from the wellhead data, right? And some of the data are derived from the path deviation bias, right? And you can also change the wheel names from here, right? Default attributes, user attributes, check shots, wheel logs. Also display the wheel logs, right? So then that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the five logs that we have imported, right? So B1 doesn't have those logs, so it's gonna display no, 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 right? And then for other wheels, you have yes because you have those logs, right? And log attributes. Then it's going to display some of the more complete information about the logs in each of the wheel, right? And those are so for example for the template that you just so net gross, that's what we have actually adjusted but manually, right? That's the template for net gross for all the different wheels, A10, A15 up to like C7, I think, right? So those spreadsheets allows you give you an overview about those wheel data, and then through those spreadsheets you can also manually or you can manually adjust some of the parameters or change the or add more data or delete some data. That's another way for you uh, to interact with the wheel data, right? In addition to sort of operating on them graphically or through button clicks. Right? Now let's organize all the wheels into different folders, right? Sometimes for this particular example, you have 15 wheels. That's not too many. That's just a very small number of wheels. But for some data set or some projects, you could have like hundreds or thousands of wheels, right? And it might be a good idea to just organize those wheels based upon different criteria. So let's try to insert some folders into it. Right click on it and then insert a new folder, right? And then if I slow double click, let's create like 3 different folders. A, that's for just A wheels. And then B for all the B wheels. And then C for all the C wheels. Right? You don't really have to sort of organize wheels by their wheel name, right? You can organize it based upon the purpose, for example, right? Injection wheels, right? Based upon the purpose of a particular wheel, or based upon regions, right? And Petrel actually allows you to use a polygon to select a region, and then you can put all the wheels within that polygon to a particular folder. But for now, let's just do something relatively simple. We can just create like 3 subfolders for A, B, and C, right? And then click on one of them, and then hold down the shift key, and then select the 3 A wheels, and then just drag them into the A folder. Right. And then we can do the same thing for B. Hold down the shift key and then select all the B wheels, and then drag them into the B folder, and then select all the C wheels, and then drag them into the C folder. Right. So now we've got for some reason sorry, maybe readjusted the. Oh, I see. For some, once we have organized them, the property of the display actually has changed. Let's So now we still can see all the whales. So this way we can actually organize our whales in a cleaner way, right? So suppose we look at in the 2D window. In the 2D window, the whale symbols are still too small. Let me just make some settings. Let's change it to like 300. 2D. Changing. Why the font size is so small? Okay, so now let's try to sort of import some additional data. That's the whale top data, right? Whale top data. So once we have logs, people can actually derive those locations or the depths of those horizons from those log data, right? And that's one of the important information that we can obtain from the whales. Later on, we can actually construct horizons from those whale tops, right? So again, let's go back to the home tab. Let's go back to the home tab, and then underneath the folder, we can try to import a new whale tops folder, right? The whale tops folder is not unique for every project. You can for every project you can have like multiple whale tops folder, right? It's not like the whales folder. So for now we have a whales folder inside of the input pane. So new whale folder is grayed out, but the whale tops folder, if you insert one, right? If you go back, you can still insert more, right? So depending upon the person who did the whale tops, right? You could have multiple whale tops, right? So for one person, you could have sort of divided the logs in one way, and then for the other person, he or she may have divided the logs into a different the whale tops in a different way. So you can have multiple whale tops, right? Let's delete this one, and so now maybe let's change the name to a different one. Let's just call it Plan A or something. Plan A. That's one of the plans for dividing up the logs into like multiple sections, right? And picking whale tops, right? For now, there's nothing in it. For nothing. So if you look at the different items inside of the plan A, you have stratigraphy, faults, and others, right? You have different kind of whale tops. Right? For now, none of them actually has anything. Right? Stratigraphy has empty, faults, others are all empty. Right? Now let's import it. Again, right click on the whale top folder, and then you can just import on selection. Right? And then we can just navigate to our example dataset, and then click on whale tops, and then you can select the whale tops underscore type. That's the ASCII file that we're going to use. And then you have to sort of make sure that files of type is set at Petrel whale tops ASCII, right? So let's just open it. So again, it's an ASCII file, right? So you can actually examine it. So at the bottom of the dialog box, it's going to display the first 30 lines of that particular text file. So you can imagine what's actually the content inside of this particular file. It's so the first column is going to be the whale name, right? And then the second column is going to be the name of the horizon: base Cretaceous, top Tarbert, top Nice, top Eve. And then the third column. So for this particular data set we are using, the third column is actually the measured depth, right? But depending upon, usually it's measured depth. It's telling you the depth of base Cretaceous, this particular horizon, at this particular well, right? And but depending upon the particular project, you could have a different meaning for each of the different columns. For now, and then the last column is kind of important. It tells you it's a horizon. It's a horizon, right? You could have different kinds of well tops, right? Sometimes it's fault, right? And sometimes it's others. So basically, if you specify horizon, and then all those well tops are going to go into the stratigraphy folder on the plane A, right? And if you specify the last column as fault, and then it's going to, Petrel is going to treat it as a fault, and then it's going to go into the faults, right? And then if you specify nothing, if you don't say anything here, then it's going to be treated as others, right? So depending upon what's actually in the last column, the imported well top could go into different subdirectories, subfolders on the plane A, right? And then we have to sort of adjust the top part of the table to make sure that it's consistent with the format of our file, right? So the first column is not X, it's supposed to be the well name, it's a text, right? And then the second column is supposed to be the surface, right? The surface, it's also supposed to be a text, right? And then the third column is supposed to be MD, measure depth, that's meter. And then the fourth column is supposed to be the type, actually, the type of the surface. The type, right? It's the type. And then we can just delete all the rest of the columns. Hold down the Shift key, click on the fifth column, and then hold down the Shift key, and then click on the 13th column. And then we can just use this button to delete all those redundant columns. Because it doesn't have a header line, so the data actually starts from the first line. That's the first line is already data. There's no header to it. So the number of header lines is 0, right? And then the well tops for all the different wells are inside of the one file. So you can see A10, A15, A16, B2 on the first 30 lines, right? And in fact, this one file actually contains the well tops for all wells, right? In practice, it may not be the case. The well tops for different wells could be in different files. And if that's the case, you can select multiple files at the same time. And then once you have done the configuration here, you click on OK for all. But for now, it's like just a one file, so there's not really that much of a difference between OK for all and OK. But nevertheless, let's click on OK for all. And now we can, if we look back, now stratigraphy now has stuff in it, right? It's got content. It's got content, right? So those names are actually the names of those surfaces in our well top data file, right? So base Cretaceous, top Tarbert, and then top Gneiss, top Eve, and then we also have Tarbert 1 and Tarbert 2, right? And then Gneiss 1. Those are actually smaller horizons, right? Smaller horizons inside smaller sort of interfaces between two large interfaces, right? And then what we can sort of pay attention to is the zone here, right? So the interface itself doesn't really have any thickness, but if you have like two different interfaces, then the sort of interval between them actually has a thickness, and that zone between two interfaces is a separate object, right? It's called a zone base Cretaceous, and then here it's called a zone top Tarbert, right? So when you see zone base Cretaceous, what this object actually means is that it's the interval that goes from base Cretaceous down to top Tarbert. That's the interval. This is a volume, right? But so it has thickness, right? But base Cretaceous and top Tarbert, these are two interfaces. Interfaces doesn't have don't have thickness, right? So these are just the zero thickness surfaces. And if you don't want to see the zones, you just want to see the interfaces, you can right click on the stratigraphy, and then you have an option that's called hide zone icons. You can click on it, then all the zones are going to just sort of disappear from the view. They are still there, it's just not being displayed. Right? And then if you want to sort of get it back, show zone icons, then it's going to show it, right? So hide zone icon first. Right, that's the wheel tops, right? That's the wheel tops. And if you want to sort of look at the wheel tops on this three-dimensional view, you can display it because you have a gray box in front of it. And for now, the gray box is not checked yet. So if you check it, you're supposed to see it. But for some reason, it's not displayed correctly on my machine. Right. And if you want to sort of adjust how it's displayed, you can sort of double click on it. And then underneath the style tab, you can make adjustment. Right. For example, you can change the size. You can change how it's displayed. Is it a 3D sphere or 3D box, or as wheel top symbol, or as a, you can change the shape. You can change the size. And then number annotation, right? For now, the font is like 30. You can sort of change it like 75 maybe. Then you might be able to see the text better, right? 75 is probably still not enough. Maybe let's give it 150. Right. So now it looks like it's clear. If the display is if the wheel tops are displayed correctly, you should be able to see like three-dimensional spheres that's attached to the wheel trajectory, the wheel path, right? And those spheres, 3D spheres, are going to be corresponding to those different numbers, those measured depth numbers. Right? But a better way to actually examine those log data and also the wheel top data is actually through a wheel section window. It's not through a 3D or 2D window. It's actually through a wheel section window. So now let's look at how do we actually create a wheel section window. On a wheel section window, you can examine the details of those logs and also wheel tops, right? So for now, we're sort of mainly staying inside of this home tab. Most of the buttons are kind of inside of this particular ribbon, right? So now let's click on the second one, stratigraphy tab, and then it's going to give us a different set of buttons, right? And all those buttons allow us to actually examine those wheel data in more detail, right? So, and one of those buttons that's kind of important is called a new wheel section window. That's this button. That's this button, right? And if we click on it, then it's gonna give us a dialog box, right? So whenever we try to create a wheel section window, there's gonna be new data that's gonna be created, right? And this new data is called cross sections. Cross sections is more like a data object. It's some kind of a data object that allows you to actually configure which wheel is going to go into this particular cross section. So cross section actually goes into the input pane, and here you can sort of decide what's going to be the name of that particular cross section. Right. Let's just accept the default value, and later on we can change it. Right. And then that's going to be the data, the new data that will be created by this kind of process. Right. It's a cross section data basically. And then there's a second section that's called a template. Right. You have two different choices. You can either create a new template and then or use existing template. Right. What exactly is a template? Right. Template is going to control how the log curves or and also the wheel tops data. Those kind of data are going to be displayed for every wheel. Right. once we start to look at a specific example, you'll have a better idea about what a template actually controls. So now let's try to create a new one. Let's let's change the, let's call it GR, gamma ray, and then permeability, PRM, and then porosity, POR. That's going to be 3 logs we're going to use to actually as an example. Right. So do we want to use the same kind of template, always do this for new wheel section windows, or do we want to just apply this setting to new or to this particular wheel section window, right? And then always do this for new wheel show template settings. We can configure template settings later on, right? And for now, let's just click on OK. And now we can sort of see a wheel section window 1, right? And then underneath the cross sections, we're going to have a cross section that's called X section 1, right? And for now, we haven't actually added anything to this particular cross section yet. But if you want to do that, let's, for example, the first thing we want to do is probably just add some wheels to this particular wheel section, right? So let's give it a try. There are several different ways for adding wheels to this particular cross section. The easiest way is probably just click on the wheels, basically. Select the wheels inside of this. When this window is active, you can select the wheels. Select the gray box in front of the wheels, right? Let's click on C3. So as soon as we click on C3, you're going to see a track here for C3, right? And then maybe let's try another one. Let's do B9. Let's do B9. That's another track, right? And for now, so the number that's displayed between them is telling you what's actually the distance between these two wheels, right? C3 and B9, they are separated by like 3,207 meters. Right? And then this track that's being displayed, it's actually telling you what the track actually is SSTVD. SSTVD, that's subsea true vertical depth, I think, right? Sometimes it's called TVD-SS, true vertical depth subsea. Depending upon the software you're using, could have a different kind of convention. SSTVD just means subsea TVD. You can change the name of this. You can change the track later on, but for now, the default value seems to be reasonable, right? True vertical depth subsea. Our whales are actually all offshore, so that's a reasonable depth track, right? And then the next number displayed underneath it is actually the scale of that particular track. So this one is 1 to 5,483, and this one is 1 to 1,687, right? And then you have whale symbols on top of it. So this track is for C3, and then this track is for B9, and then let's add one more A track, A whale. So let's do A16, right? So A16 is separated from like B9 by like 1,271 meters. Right. That's for selecting the whales, right? And then we can select the log we want to display, right? And the template that we are using is called a gamma ray, perm, and porosity, right? So let's just display these 3: gamma, perm, right, and then porosity, right? And as you actually click on those global whale logs, those logs are being added to all the 3 different whales, right? To C3, B9, and A16. That's the 3 whales that we're actually looking at, right? And then as we add more of those logs, we're going to get more tracks, actually. Those things are called tracks, right? So gamma is a track, and then perm is another track, and then porosity is another track, right? Those things are called tracks. And then, and here it's going to show the unit, GAPI, MD, meter cube over meter cube. That's for the different the three different properties. And then the numbers actually shows the range of the data. So it goes from like gamma goes from like 25.18 to 163.74. Perm goes from like 1 millidarcy to 10,000 millidarcy or something. Maybe, is that right? Doesn't seem to be. And then porosity goes from like a 0.0318 to 0.2645 for this particular track, for this particular whale, right? And then for B9 whale, you're gonna have a different range, and then porosity, permeability, that kind of thing, all have a different range, right? So that's 3 whales that we selected just by clicking on the whales, right? Clicking on the whale gray box in front of the whale name, basically, right? But now if we go back to the 3D window, let me turn off the whale tops. We don't want to see the whale tops on the 3D window yet. Where is it? Okay, let me click off this thing. Right. And then if we go back to the 3D window, you're gonna see a gray box in front of X section 1. And if back in the whale section window, you're gonna see that there's a radio symbol. There's a radio button in front of the cross section, right? And it's already checked. It doesn't allow you to actually make any changes anymore. But if you go back to the 3D window, you're gonna see there's a gray box in front of X section 1. And if you sort of click on it, it's gonna display the so-called whale fence, right? This is called a whale fence, and it's got a name on it, X section 1, cross section 1. Right? And this whale fence shows you the three-dimensional sort of view of the plane that goes across these 3 different whales, right? That's C3 and what? C3, B9, and A16, right? Right. And on the 2-dimensional view, you can I see on the 2-dimensional view? Yeah, that's the 2-dimensional view, right? If you sort of pay attention to where the blue line actually is, you can sort of see it's not exactly passing through the whale head symbol, right? So the default behavior is that it's gonna actually connect the bottoms of the whales, right? So all the bottoms of the whales are gonna be lying on this particular plane. Right? This is particularly clear for C3. The whale head is like lying at a kind of a big distance from this plane. The plane is basically connects all the bottom of all the 3 whales actually. And inside of this kind of a 3-dimensional view, and also inside of the 2-dimensional window, you're going to be able to actually have an active button that's called cross-sectional editing. Right. This button is grayed out when you are actually inside of the whale section window, when you are trying to sort of put together those logs, trying to examine those logs. Right. So if you actually make this whale section window active, the X section editing button is grayed out. You cannot really use it, right? But in a 3-dimensional window, a 3D window, you will be able to actually see this button, right? And suppose we click on this button, and then you're gonna see a tool palette. You're gonna see this tool palette. And this tool palette is telling you that X section editing. So it's going to provide you some additional buttons for you to actually edit this particular cross section. Right. So you can sort of see the shape of the cursor has changed. It has been changed to a cross. Right. It's been changed to a cross. So when you are trying to operate on something, let's close this box first, and then change the cursor to the hand. So now let's try to edit this particular cross section that we just created by highlighting it. Right? And then when this item is being clicked, has so the font is like in the boldface. So this item has been selected, right? When this item is being selected, let's click on Crosssectional Editing, right? And then if we sort of do any kind of operations by using this button when the cursor is sort of in the cross shape, right? Then we're gonna add stuff. We're gonna add new wheels or delete wheels. This button is gonna allow you to delete wheels from the existing cross section, right? So if we want to add, for example, A10 to the cross section, to this particular wheel fence, then we can just click on A10. You can sort of see it's extending this X section 1 to include A10. Right? If you want to sort of exit the picking mode, if you want to exit the add wheel mode or X section editing mode, you can just click the V key on your keyboard or just click here. Right? Either way is fine. Let's just click here. Now we're going back to the viewing mode. Right? We're not, this button is no longer active. It's not active now. Right? And then if we go back to the wheel section window, if we click here, right, there should be one more wheel that's being added. That's A10. That's A10. Right. At the beginning, we only have like 3 wheels, but now we have 4 wheels inside this wheel section window. Right. And you must have noticed that when we clicked on that particular A10 wheel, all the logs are automatically displayed, right? Because the wheel that's being added to this particular window is using the grperm_por template. Right, so by default, it's going to use this particular template that's in this particular active window, wheel cross-section window. So once you apply this template to this A10 wheel that you just added, it's gonna the window is automatically going to display these 3 properties: gamma, perm, and porosity. Right. And again, the tool palette is not gonna, in this particular window, it's not gonna allow you to actually add wheels or delete wheels from the cross section. If you want to sort of remove A10, for example, from this wheel section, you have to sort of go back to let's go back to 2D window. Right? Let's go back to a 2D window. So we added A10 in that 2D window, right? Now let's try to delete A10 from the we added A10 from that 3D window. Now let's try to delete A10 from the 2D window, right? Let's click on this button. Delete wheel. Still, the operation is under X section 1. Right? Where's A10? That's A10, right? Let's click on this. Now, the blue line from A16 to A10 has disappeared. Right? Again, let's go back to the viewing mode. And then let's go back to the wheel section window. And now we go back to the 3 different wheels. There's no A10 here. Right? A10 has disappeared. Right. So that's how you can actually edit. How you can edit an existing wheel section from those 2D and 3D windows, right? But now let's change the name of X section 1. Let's change it to something more informative. C3 to A16, right? That might be a good name, right? So for now, it's not sort of changing the X section 1, the name display yet. But it's okay. Later on, it's gonna, once we sort of try to recreate a new 3D window or something, then the correct name is gonna be displayed along this particular fence diagram. Okay, so suppose you want to sort of not sort of editing this particular cross section, right? You don't want to edit this particular cross section, this existing cross section. You want to sort of add new cross sections, right? So can you actually do that? Can you actually do it? It's not difficult. So all you have to do is to make this item not active, right? Don't make this item active, and then you can just X section editing, right? And then you can just sort of did I actually? For some reason, it's still active because I can see the face of the font. It's still black. See, black means this thing is still active, right? Maybe I should just change the system settings. Now it's like now it's not in the boldface, right? And then I click on cross-section editing. Now I can add new wheels, create a new cross-section for say C7. So what it actually is doing is that as soon as I clicked on this wheel, it's automatically created one cross-section called X section 1, right? And then it automatically created a wheel section window 2 for me, which has the wheel that I just clicked, right? C7, I think, right? And then if I keep clicking, say C5, right? X section 1, and then maybe let's do another wheel, maybe A15, right? And now if I go back to the wheel section window 2, I should be able to see like 3 different tracks for the 3 different wheels, right? And then the default behavior is that it's not going to try to so the template that's being applied here is some sort of default value wheel section template 2, which doesn't actually display the gamma ray, the perm, and the porosity, right? But you can change it. You can change it by selecting, for example, one existing template. This gr perm pore is something that we just created. Once you have selected that particular template, then all the tracks that you have defined for that template are going to be automatically added, like gamma ray, perm, and porosity. Right. And now if we go back to the 3D view, you're going to see two wheel fences, right? Because both of them are being displayed. Both of them are being displayed. Of course, you can turn off one of them, right? So now you can just see one fence, one wheel fence, right? If you want to display both of them. And then inside the 2D window, you should be able to see both cross sections also, right? That's in the 2D window. So it might be worthwhile to actually change the name. Don't use the default name X section 1. That's not telling you much, right? It might be better to just because I turned off the slow double click, so now I have to sort of go back to the settings to change the name of this particular cross section, right? So name X section 1 is not a good name. Maybe we should just change it to C7 to A15. Oh, so now the name has changed, C3 to A16 now. So this wheel fence has the name has changed to C3 to A16, and the name for this fence hasn't been changed yet. The display of the fence hasn't been changed yet. So if you go to the Windows tab, that's kind of an auto hiding window, right? The Windows tab is right here. If you move your cursor over there, then it's gonna sort of have a automatic window sort of comes out of the edge, right? And if you move your cursor out, then that pane is gonna be automatically hidden, right? So if you move your cursor over, it's gonna show you all the wheels, or all the windows, that's active. That can be viewed, right? You have a 3D window, 2D window. Now you have two wheel section windows, right? And you can manage your windows from this particular pane. If you just sort of turn off wheel section window 2 by clicking on this X, right? Inside of the Windows pane, wheel section Windows 2 is still going to be there. It's still there, right? It doesn't mean that window is being displayed, has been deleted. If you want to get it back, you can just click on the box in front of it, right? So if you don't want a particular window, you want to delete it, you have to sort of right click here. And then it's going to give you an option that's delete. You delete it. Are you sure you want to delete the item wheel section window 2? Yes. And then in the Windows tab, I don't have Windows wheel section window 1 anymore. Right. So now so now in the wheel section window 1, we have just C3 to A16. It's going to display these three wheels, right? C3, B9, A16, right? And the C7 to A15 is automatically sort of hidden, right? So if we want to sort of see C7 to A15, we have to sort of click on the radio button in front of it. But different from this kind of rectangular button, the rectangular button are going to allow you to see multiple things in the same window, right? But this kind of radio button is kind of mutually exclusive. So if you click on C7 to A15 inside this particular window, then it's going to all the logs are going to change to the logs for these three wheels, right? And then C3 to A16, the logs for these three wheels are going to disappear. You won't be able to see it in the same window, right? So those radio buttons are mutually exclusive. You can only see one of them at one time. Right. But let's still go back to C3 and A16. Right. Still go back to C3 and A16. Now let's sort of look at how we can actually manipulate those logs and their display in a better way, right? But maybe this is long enough for one video. Let's stop here and try to make a different video.